Satnam Yogis and Yoginis, hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we have my most honored guest today, my spiritual teacher, Shiv Charan Singh. I'm very happy that you are here, Shiv. Thank you for taking the time to come with us. And well, you know, there could be a million questions that I could ask you to start this conversation, but I think it could be of great benefit for the channel to talk about what it means to have a spiritual teacher. You're my spiritual teacher. What does that mean for people who don't have one? They would ask, well, we have teachers, but what does it mean to have a spiritual one? And is it necessary at all? So can you please tell us a little bit about this?
Satnam, okay, thank you. Thank you to invite me here and to bring up this question, which is a super important question, actually. But even as you were asking me, I was thinking, well, it would be interesting to hear from the students. What do they say? What's their experience of having a spiritual teacher, and what has it meant for them? How has it served or helped them in some way? What were their challenges? What difference did it make? But here we are in this reverse question, so I will address it. But just to keep that in mind, it might be interesting to hear from the students. Perhaps that also means it makes me think about going back to my own journey as a student, actually, and thinking about something like a truth feeling inside of myself that's not being addressed by what's in my environment, whether that's the human conversations that's taking place or the what I'm reading in the magazines, books, whatever I'm finding around me in school, college, universities. So I think that truth feeling kind of guides us in some way to look for something that we feel is more real, more true, something that echoes that truth feeling in ourselves. And so my encounter with various teachers over my lifetime has often been that question: is this touching this truth feeling in me? Is it echoing that? Is it confirming this truth feeling in me? Turning this around now from another perspective, thinking about the, we relate the teacher to number 5, also the teachings as a body of teachings, and 5 is also the physical body, but the physical body as the body of a teacher rather than man, woman, person, or some other identity. Certainly my journey as a teacher was kind of tested when a student would say, "You're my spiritual teacher." It's not that I set out, I have a mission, I have a purpose, or a vision or a dream to be a spiritual teacher to anybody. Teacher, yes, teaching yoga, teaching other content through workshops, teaching the numerology, so just teacher, but ordinary everyday teacher, like I might be teaching geometry or history or any other topic, just passing on the knowledge of the topic. But of course that does involve an encounter with the student, and those encounters are more than just the conveying of knowledge. Other things happen, challenges happen, confrontation happen, inquiry happens, reality checks happen. And so that's my own journey, maturing as a teacher, as being open, inviting students, ask anything, put anything on the table, and I'm willing to face the test of that. What I know, what I don't know, how do we take those questions into account, give them validity, and explore. Not that I know the answer, but recognize the question is valid and give it space. So that's my own learning journey as a teacher. It's not me just popping up one day and saying, "Here I am, spiritual teacher," this kind of thing. Coming from another perspective, we hear about and we share in the teachings about the impact of the Maya in this, what I've lately been calling this convex mirror effect. So you're looking out into the world and it expands our head, expands our sensory awareness out in the world, and deflects us. It doesn't mirror us back to self, but it deflects us out. Come here, look here, buy here, go there, explore there. So we go on various tourist journeys in the world, including spiritual tourism in a way, pilgrimages, looking for the holy place, looking for the holy persons, looking for that. So as same as just a shopping mall is just full of distractions calling us out. Even the spiritual journey can often tend to be something of that nature. I would say
going guru shopping rather than window shopping.
Yeah, exactly. Just another kind of shopping mall. And we have different teachers in our lifetime. I think that's also worth bringing into the conversation. That, like we say, our mother is our first teacher, our father is a teacher, if he's around, significant people in our childhood, relatives, teachers in school. Maybe one teacher stood out as something more than just teaching the topic, but being an example of the human being, the human species, and inspiring us in some way. So we encounter different teachers. Our lovers, also from adolescence onwards, we have these intimate encounters with people, and we learn as we grow. Sometimes we learn also, of course, patterns of fear, patterns of attachment, patterns of defense mechanisms, patterns of attack and defend, patterns of competing with each other. So we learn, but we're learning often just to survive, and our growth or maturity may be limited also to just acquiring more knowledge, certificates, and professional status or whatever, learning just to get by. Also, we learn to cheat, to lie, to steal, to get by in the system, understand how the system works, and optimize our own survival, but also our own seek pleasure and avoid pain kind of process. So we're learning all the time, but what are we learning and what's the outcome of those learnings? The encounter with a teacher that is, I'm going to say, in the process of becoming spiritual teacher, because that's how I felt it has been for me, is an encounter with someone who says, stop this running around, stop, it's not all out there, it's the beginning of sit down and turn the situation around, turn back to yourself. And that has many layers, many strata to it, and we've, let's say, my reflection today was we might look at that through particular stages, which we're going to number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in a way, and we know that with the 4 is also the 6, and with the 3 the 7, and with the 2 the 8, and with the 1 and the 9. So we're looking at 4 and 6, neutral mind, arc line, what's happening there, encounter with the 3 and 7, positive mind, auric body, all that goes with that, and then going through to the 2 and 8, negative mind, pranic body, what happens at that stage of the journey, of the interaction with the teacher and the teachings, which I will mostly not want to separate in a way. What is teacher without the teachings, and what are the teachings without the teacher who conveys that? And then it's not to say the final step, but the end of that particular sequence, the soul body and the subtle body, 1 and the 9. And that has to be the beginning of some other kind of rebound, what also comes out of that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which implies student becoming teacher also.
There's like a double 5 there, because as you get down to the 1, you're also rebounding and coming back to the awakening and turning around to become the teacher, right?
Yeah. Like my encounter actually with Yogi Bhajan, who has been my teacher in many ways, telling me almost from day one, you're already a teacher. Even I had no idea what that means, and quite confronting actually. And realizing as we go along, we say teach to master, And I think this is also an interesting phenomena here, because we do say in the Piscean age, teacher chose the student, teacher would identify the student. We're talking about teacher as master, teacher as guru in some way, would identify, come knocking on your door, or trip you up in the marketplace or something. Somebody might come to the master and beg and beg and beg and wish and wish and wish that the master might receive them and accept them. And master would not necessarily do that. You're not my student, get out of here. And so, and if we say that if the student didn't accept that relationship, that, how to say, acknowledgement, more than that, alignment to go with the teacher in some way, it would be more or less like a curse on the student. They're missing their destiny. They're not getting it. They don't realize that this is their path. And if they don't follow it, life cannot be a happy life. Of course, there was a few exceptional cases where the student, going back 400 or 500 years, where the student insisted to such an extent and even managed to trick the master in some way. Like if the student would touch the master's feet, then that's it. You are now student, and teacher can't refuse you. So student might even try to arrange a situation where the teacher would kick them or something like that. Say, okay, now I've touched your feet. It's kind of, and I think that's interesting. There are a few stories like that, which I would say is the beginning of the turnaround, the beginning of the end of that Piscean model, which had to happen because when master dictated to the student, they would become really like a tyrant, quite dictating, and everything of the student belonged to the teacher, belonged to the master. Your house, your body, your everything. And there would then, of course, be cases where master would abuse that, take advantage of that, and not actually honor the relationship. So the integrity was called into question. And therefore, it was necessary to begin to invert that situation and turn that around. And that's taken some hundreds of years to do that. Still, we have masters who assume, even in yoga, a teacher assuming just because you come into my class, that makes you my student. And that's not true, actually. In the class, I have a certain license to convey, to communicate, to challenge, to propose. But the moment we step out the door, you're just another person, I'm just another person in the world. There's nothing to do with who's student, who's master or teacher. So this is still going on today, that teachers are assuming this authority and this right and this privilege, which they don't really have. And students are sometimes naive enough also to, oh, well, he said, he or she said they're the teacher and I'm the student. Anyway, let's go to this point. Student chooses the teacher. So for me, when the student then come to me and said, you're my spiritual teacher, it's almost like a shock actually. Like, oh, okay, what do I have to do now? Do I have any idea what that means? And does the student have any idea of what they're just letting themselves in for? And I still see that today. A student might come, oh, you're my teacher. And I realize they're completely naive and they have no idea what this journey is going to be about. So, there's projections, there's romantic fascinations, there's all kind of dreams about some glory around what that means. And so this is why sometimes I'm running a little bit ahead here. I have said sometimes the spiritual teacher is the last one to disappoint you, or must disappoint you, has to destroy those fantasies and projections in some way. But that's running ahead. We do say in the life, sooner or later you realize your mother is not the deity, the divine, the God, and then you realize your father's not God, they're just human, they have their attachments, their programs, their patterns, whatever. And so, and they're not going to just feed you endlessly and supply you with everything and save you from the pains of the life, etc., etc. So we get a lot of little wake-up calls along the way. But initially through the life, we're still able to run along and find the next distraction, the next anesthetization, the next medication, the next pleasure pain game in the world. So we don't have to actually stop running, you know. It's the spiritual teacher who actually says enough is enough. Yeah, it's time to turn the situation around. So when student chooses the teacher, then there's a question also, how ready is the student as well? How ready is the teacher to take that on? And I do have people coming to me who are saying, like, Shiv Charan, the student has told me I'm their spiritual teacher. What do I do now? So again, you know, they're going through the stages that I've also been exploring along the way. So it's a commitment. We're talking now in the domain of 4 and the 6. We can stay here for a moment. A question of trust. Like the student is handing some trust over to the teacher, and that's already a very risky thing to do. Teacher has a kind of play with the paradox of the 5. Take that trust, but give it back in a way, you know? So it's like, don't trust me, trust you, but trust your feeling about me, in a way. Yeah, that's really what you're trusting. In fact, when a student chooses teacher, that actually trusting something in themselves that says, this is the way to go. Yeah, this is the person I'm, you know, what am I doing when I'm saying you're my spiritual teacher? I'm actually authorizing you to confront me, to tell me truths that I've not given to other people. I don't necessarily give my friend that license. You understand? By choosing teacher, I'm giving a license that I've not given maybe to my mother, my father, my brothers, sisters, my siblings, my friends and neighbors, even my lover to some extent. I might not give that same license to. You know, we say to our lover, like, yeah, you can tell me anything, I can tell you anything, but sooner or later we get in, I say there's a shift from what we call the confidant to the critic. You know, you trust them, but now they tell you everything, and you start to realize, like, oh, I don't want all that feedback. So we start to even be measured as to what we will communicate with our lovers even. Teacher has to kind of confront you, like, come on, put it all on the table, you know, no secrets here. And so this opening, this is the 4 and the 6 talking here as well, yeah? Trusting enough, even if it's not about trusting the teacher, but being in that state of trust to put everything forward. Your worst fears, your worst habits, patterns you have, everything. And it's not that it all comes out at the beginning, but there has to be that sense of nakedness. Even if it's not all told openly, like words, but the student is invited to have that sense. It's all exposed. Student might be naive thinking, teacher's the one who sees everything. Sees my shadow, sees everything. Now, teacher could go into deep state of meditation and penetrate through the veil and all the defenses and see and see and see. But I find that's not actually helpful. The more I reveal that I can see things, the more the student is just going to wait and hope and lean on the teacher to do that job. No, I may notice things, but you have to bring it forward. The student has to do their work. So as a teacher,
self-initiation, yeah.
Self-initiation, exactly. So teacher has to also have restraint as well, not to go barging in, charging in. There's like this intrusive nature can happen because the teacher thinks, okay, hey, now I have this license. So at the point of the 3 and 7, there are boundaries as well, and we may come to that in a moment. I'm just checking some of my side notes there. Discipline is going to be needed from the student as well as from the teacher. So I think this is also interesting that the themes that we bring up are not just about the student, but equally the teacher. So the teacher also has that measure of restraint in a way. What to bring forward, when to confront, when to say certain things, when not to. And the student also has to have their own discipline of readiness, and then confrontation comes in as well. So there's going to be moments which are not easy. Teacher has to dare. At the same time, student has to be available to confront. So there's a little bit of a battleground going on as well between, let's say, the ego of the student and the teacher navigating and negotiating. Because it's not the teacher's job to just come in and blast and destroy the ego kind of thing. That's not at all the purpose. Ego has its value, has its place, but it has to become more transparent. So the teacher knowing how to confront, to bring the transparency, not to get into a I win, you lose kind of situation. We say, let truth win. So ego loses in a certain way, but loses is not the same as ego dies. Okay? But it loses its predominant position.
Mm-hmm.
Its control over everything.
Yeah, because sometimes we have these 4 steps for the teacher: poke, provoke, confront, and elevate, that we teach in the level 1. And as you are saying, just because somebody comes to your class doesn't mean you're the spiritual teacher, but somebody will feel, well, if it's my role to poke, provoke, confront, and elevate, then we'll maybe start initiating that process with somebody who is not open to that confrontation. And then you start that process, you're not going to get to the elevation, you're going to get poke, provoke, confront, conflict, rather than elevation, right?
Exactly. In a class, let's say a formal yoga class, the practice itself already does poke, provoke, confront, and the teacher is there to, the teacher's voice kind of guide the student in confronting moments to move it into elevation. Keep up, keep breathing, feel your breath, don't allow the thoughts, but don't fix on them. Allow the emotional process going on, but don't drown in that. To move it all into your mantra, into your breathing. Stay on track. So the teacher's facilitating, but the teacher's not doing poke, provoke, confront, and elevate. Just facilitating, holding the space for that, guiding the student through it. So this is the poke, provoke, confront, elevate is a 1, 2, 3, 4 process, right? For the teacher themselves to really instigate that, the dynamic between student and teacher still has to move through the 4, 3, 2, 1 before 1, 2, 3, 4 can happen in a way. Yeah. So there's a difference between spiritual teacher and student, in or out of the class, and what goes on within a class itself.
Can I just check with you something? Because I remember you teaching at some point in the Karan Kriya consultancy training about how there is generally two very common approaches when you have somebody in front of you, and it's either the path of the poke, provoke, confront, and elevate, or the path of the holding and loving and just caring and sustaining and just, they are going through their drama, their situation, their issue, their problem, whatever is happening. And you can either, okay, let's go, they are ready, let's go, let's provoke, and let's try to get to that elevation. That would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess. But then the other one is the holding and the just embracing and loving and caring. Would that be 4, 3, 2, 1, or would that be?
Right. So here we point out that the teacher doesn't go from the 4 to the 3 to the 1, but holds the 4, links to the 10, listening, keeping that cup of prayer, the golden chain, and keeping that space so that the 3 comes into consciousness. 4 is a domain of consciousness, right? The patterns, the programs, the reactions, the resistances, right understanding of instruction, so 3 and 7 as well, bringing that into the awareness. Yeah, 60-degree angle. What is it? It's not this, it is that. 2 and 8, there's a process, there's a cleansing, there's a healing going on. Bringing that into awareness is not, you're not going 4, 3, 2, 1, but you're conscious when that process is starting for a student. And then coming in the 1 and the 9, still holding that awareness Is there an integrity happening? Is there a crystallization happening? Is there a focus happening? Is there a space out happening? 6, 7, 8, 9 going on, calling the person back into focus. You are here with yourself now, you within you. So that kind of language guiding this towards that awareness of the one. You are you and you are okay. Any language around that. So the 4, 3, 2, 1 has the possibility to happen. You're not making it happen, you're not forcing it to happen, you're holding the space for that possibility. Every student that comes in the class has this opportunity.
Yeah, I find interesting that somehow as you're speaking, there's a word that it keeps coming back, which is the disappointment that you mentioned before. And the disappointment and appointment is like a point to find the point, how
That's
it could
right.
be like self-appointment, no? I am the one, okay, my teacher is disappointing me in a way. I thought he was going to do the work for me. He's telling me he's not going to go into my layers and work with my ego. He's telling me you work it out. And then at some point you have to self-appoint yourself, which is like the self-initiation, and start the 1, 2, 3, 4 somehow.
Exactly. There are teachers who will want to do that, who will want to enter in your space, manipulate your chakras,
Yeah.
raise your kundalini for you, do whatever. But I find that inappropriate. I don't think it's correct for the context of the times we live in and for the integrity of the individual and of the teacher and of the teachings.
It's a very, very dangerous line to cross, right? Because it's like going and accessing the Akashic records or...
Exactly.
I mean, to a certain level, it's like you go to somebody for a massage. Okay, you are being passive, and they are doing something to it, I mean, like a therapeutic massage. To a certain extent, that's useful. But if you don't work out your issues, you're going to come back to need another massage in a few weeks. If you do your postures, you can self-massage, no? So.
Exactly. This is important to identify. Teacher actually is not the masseur. Teacher is not even the psychoanalyst. Teacher is not the healer who's going to channel some energy to you. This is not what teacher is. Right. That was what we just talked about. This is the 4, 6, 3, 7, 2, 8 kind of dynamic. And yet those things happen because teacher has impact. Teacher has presence. Presence is touching, which we think about massage is touch. So there is touch happening by teacher's presence. How are you touched by the presence of the teacher? And teacher is also in that space, also feeling the presence of the student as well. So this is in the air, we could say. Same as the analysis, there is somebody with a story, with a history, and the teacher is having this, we could almost say the teacher is doing the work of 6, 7, 8, 9, while student is doing the work 4, 3, 2, 1, in a way. Teacher is your witness. Yeah, teacher is seeing through your story, not just seeing the story, but seeing through it. This is where in the 3-7 domain now, if we're ready for that, where we start with question and answer going on. Okay, so through the question and answer dynamic, student begins to get a different perspective. Teacher is asking questions that maybe nobody asked before. Student never even occurred to them to ask these kind of questions. As student is answering, teacher is also getting a sense of readiness. What's going on with this student? How ready are they to go forward? Do they understand what they've taken on by saying, you are my spiritual teacher? So a lot of question-answer dynamic is start to happen here. Testing the boundaries, identifying what are the limits, and this is negotiating. Is this game real, or are we just pretending? At a moment it's going to get real, but right now we're just knocking on each other's door in a way. You're asking questions, I'm asking questions, we're giving answers, and we're finding out. You're searching, but what are you really searching for? Do you realize what your spirit is searching for? Is maybe different from what your ego is searching for. You have your mind games. And so the conversation, all the time there's conversation, right? Because 5 is the word. And so from the very beginning, there's a conversation taking place. Yeah. And as we're going into the 3 and 7, we're looking at this kind of things. Um, and then there's also like boundaries happening here. Not only your defense mechanisms, I'm saying you, the student, teachers' boundaries as well. No, I'm not your mama or your papa, no, this is not what I do. So setting some safe space as well, linked to safety. This is where code of ethics comes in. On the one, that's there also to protect the teacher as much as it is to protect the student. At the same time, there's a lot goes on here because on the one hand, the student wants to be safe. At the same time, you might be so bound by your own safety mechanisms that you're not going to have a chance to really do the work you needed to do. Your defense mechanisms, which is your protection, is also your prison. And so teacher also has to kind of bring that to your awareness. Another thing that comes up here is the victim and the rescuer, bringing that into transparency. I'm not here to support the victim in you. I'm not the persecutor here, because student will also have reaction to the teacher. Oh, but that's not fair. Why did he or she get such and such a space with the teacher and I didn't, this and that? This comparing and competing from student to student totally corrupts the dynamic, because actually it's a very individual dynamic from teacher to one student and teacher with another student. And any cross-referencing, we're in a very delicate round, because of course a student might say, well, hold on a second, that happened with you and the teacher, is that right? Is that so? There's insight. It's good to be aware of and convey and communicate on that horizontal level, because that ensures a certain ethical standard also of the teacher. At the same time, seeking the same treatment from teacher as another student had may not be appropriate, because actually you are you and you're dealing with different things than that student is dealing with. So we're in there's a lot to navigate here. The moment we move into the 3-7 domain, this is where a lot of things can go wrong. At the same time, a lot of things have to be challenged, and shape-shifting has to happen in order to go to the next stage of that student-teacher relationship. All the topics about, as we move to the 2 and 8, power, money, and sex. Okay, this is exactly this code of the boundaries of 3 and 7 is to ensure that there's not the abuse, and yet that can be so defending that the 2 and 8, this dynamic of healing and cleansing, the mirroring of the 2 and 8 that also can take place, cannot happen if we have just too much safety boundaries up. So we've got to go all the way back to the 4 and 6. This was the gamble, right? The number 6, like roll the dice, Am I committed enough? Will I go the distance? Yeah. What happens when things get a bit tricky, here? But is it tricky because abuse is coming in? Or is it tricky because I really now am challenged as the student to let go all my preconceptions, all my judgments about right and wrong, all my systems and programs that have been protecting but also imprisoning me? Am I ready to have them all challenged and reformulated? Okay, so there's a lot going on here. A lot of the work happens in this shape-shifting stage. How much is the consciousness maintained? 4 and 6, which is linked to truthfulness as well, honesty, openness, no secrets. So also teacher having no secrets. A teacher might say, okay, don't tell anybody about what just happened in this session, kind of thing. That's the beginning of a danger ground. Yeah, student might feel that was very personal, I need to work with that, and they don't open up to others. But if teacher is asking for secrecy, why would they do that? Kind of thing. So 4 and 6 still has to be present. We don't abandon that consciousness as we move into the 3 and 7, because this is a very fascinating stage, the 3 and 7 stage. teacher also, being fascinated. Oh, how many people are calling me that spiritual teacher?
Yeah.
Now, this for me was a very tricky moment when I'm going to do a workshop in a certain country, and the local student wants to do the marketing, and they want to do a flyer, and they want to put Shiv Charan Singh, spiritual teacher. And it's like, it's real and it's not real. It's true and it's not true. I may be for some, but I'm not for most. And therefore, I'm a spiritual teacher kind of implies anybody who comes in that workshop has to now relate to me as spiritual teacher rather than just teacher. So I can't say that I found the right balance there, because now it's 3 years about being visible, right? So remember, I've said this whole journey is not only a journey for the student, it's also a journey for the teacher.
Yeah, and what can you do? Because you are a spiritual teacher, even if it's just for some. So you cannot say it's not true, but then do you want to advertise yourself as such? I mean, it's different if they say like master of Kundalini Yoga. I say, wow, okay, we teach to master. Maybe I don't feel like a master. That's easy to say, don't put that. But it's harder when they go in this, okay, you are a spiritual teacher. So why cannot we just say it, that you are a spiritual teacher? No? And then it's like, oh dear, is that the way I want to be advertised? No?
And there we are into the Maya. Yeah.
Right.
And so we cannot not be in the Maya. Even spiritual teacher is in the Maya. And so can we bring transparency to it? Can we be conscious? How are we, I call it like flying that flag, that somebody maybe has to see that and relate to that. At the same time, not pushing it down people's throat or, and I make no claims of knowing the best balance of all of that. I'm acknowledging it's a dilemma, because we are in the world of the time and the space. And I have the sense also early in this lifetime and maybe in previous lives that I chose to kind of hide away, just like there's too much things can go wrong out there. Let's just stay in my cave and not play this game out there. But each time that I've done that, a very powerful impulse within myself and from the spiritual domain says, this is selfish. This is you holding on to your insight and not sharing it with the world. This doesn't go anywhere. Why are you even on the planet if you're just going to hide in a cave? So it's a daily phenomena of like walking in the world, somehow living a lie, but in order to represent the truth. You represent something. The minute you step out the door, you represent something by anything, what you say, what you wear, how you walk, how you talk, all of it is some way you represent. And so knowing all the dangers that are on the path and yet agreeing, okay, God and Guru, you need to help me here. You need to guide and protect me because I'm stepping out. And what we also can say as spiritual teacher, the karma of any misstep is far greater than you're just any old person on the street and you do some little hiccup. You get karma, of course, but karma after proclaiming yourself as spiritual teacher or accepting the proclamation of others towards you, you are a spiritual teacher. If you're going to say, okay, I'm here, let's see what this is about. Huge learning curve for me. Many, many risky moments. But anything else is also just running away and denial and trying to escape a destiny. So,
Yeah, I can relate a lot to that. And you probably know very well my creation of the YouTube channel is a little bit like that. Because I also like to be in the background and I don't publicize myself so much. And my classes would be not so many students and I would be fine with that. I didn't make much effort to publicize them. And suddenly I'm here confronting myself. Well, it's not about you being popular, but the teachings are for everybody, for the people, for the populace, right? For the people. So am I gonna hide away and therefore not serve the teachings, or can I dare to risk and do this YouTube channel where everything is gonna be recorded? Whatever you say, anybody can go 2 years back and see everything I said, and it's a big confrontation to also to tell the truth, to tell your true relationship to the teachings, and be open. No, I mean, YouTube is like a way to open things up, and be. In a way, I don't. There's this thing. I don't really want to be popular, but at the same time, yes, I want the teachings to be popular. So it would be great if this channel was watched by many. But I'm also like, I know some things that I could do to make these more popular videos, like for the algorithm, right? But I choose not to do those things as well. So it's very difficult. It's like a very thin line in how to watch it. No, if we did this video like 15 minutes, probably it would be much more popular. For the algorithm would like it much more. It would promote it more. So yeah, that's a very thin line.
So this is where we are here. This is the stage where we talk about the Shaktipat, the ego coming in. And that can be pride and shame. And again, both for the student and the teacher. Teacher might get into, who am I? I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. More demand is coming. More popularity is coming. More risks are out there. More projections to carry. And no, I don't want this. I'm not worthy. I'm not ready to handle all of that. How can I back off? So that's the shame. Also, the student can have that shame. They start to realize the immensity of the teachings and the transformation that's going on for them. And they might also feel like, I can't do this. I'm not ready for this. Or on the pride side can happen, the teacher, oh, I'm so great. I've got so many. And then how can I get more? Comes in, and because all the tricks are out there of how to increase the popularity, as you say. Am I declining the popularity out of shame, like a false humility? Am I declining it as an expression of humility? Am I seeking more? What can I do more? How can I improve? How can I use AI to get more likes, etc.? So how quickly the pride and the ego takes over, and the fascination of that. And then the student also, having learned so much, having come so far on the road, I know so much now. 2 and 8 is interesting because number 2 is about need and the need to be needed. So this question, like, I don't need the teacher. I know so much now. I'm already, so this negation, and the criticism comes. Start to criticize, well, teachers are only human. They also have their faults. They're not as perfect. This is the beginning of the disappointment as well, linking into the 2 energy of the negative mind, that now finally the teacher has disappointed the student in some way. The expectations of the spiritual ego mind of the student has now been disappointed, and what's the student going to do with that? Also their own expectations of themselves as well, so am I disappointed in myself? Am I disappointed in the teacher? So this very testing moment comes. Are we going to move beyond this 3-7 game? It's almost like a cat and mouse game. Also the competing and comparing, where student even starts to compete with the teacher, and even teacher competes to stay one step ahead of the student. I'm cleverer than, I'm better than, and in order to not lose the student, always kind of demonstrate some kind of. So the teachers even start to anticipate the loss of the student in some way, loss of the student in the 3-7 realm. Okay,
Losing
which
how?
doesn't necessarily mean the loss of the student.
How can a teacher lose a student?
Student, let's say they go to a training program with you, and let's say we're talking about Kundalini Yoga teacher training. Many teachers will be hoping that student will still be their student after that, or student gets qualified and goes off into their own domain. You never see or hear from them again, even they've said, you're my spiritual teacher, and now they open up a studio next to you and start building their own followers and whatever. There are teachers who won't even disclose the availability of things like teacher training because they don't want to lose the student. You're my student.
Right,
I
right,
want you to
right.
become a teacher because when you're a teacher, you're competition. This is from a Maya egoistic kind of
Of
level.
course, yeah, because from another perspective, you never lose the student. I mean, if the student called you as the spiritual teacher, you feel the connection, even if they don't phone you, even if they don't call you, even if they don't come anymore, even if they go to other trainings or whatever, that connection is there, right?
No, not necessarily. Student might explicitly say, "You're not my teacher anymore."
Oh, right, right. That's another thing, though.
Okay,
That's
so
something
that
I wanted
happens.
to ask you as well.
That
That
happens.
soul's contract, right? And how does it get established and broken?
Yeah, we on the way to that. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not we're quite ready for that, but yes, that
Okay.
happens. Remember, student chooses the teacher.
Right.
If student says, "I'm walking away, you're not my teacher," teacher has no hold on that. Nothing.
Right.
They may try, but that's their own ego. That's them manifesting this Piscean construct, which is not relevant anymore. Okay, if student goes, student goes. Now, if student may be confused.
Yeah, that's the
Student,
thing. Because you, as a
okay,
teacher, he also gave you the responsibility. If I'm confused, help me, right? And now they are maybe confused, no? So,
okay. So teacher has also this delicate thing to have that sensitivity. Is that because 2 and 8 is linked to the bond in some way, right? Is there still this bond? And teacher may hold that student in their prayers even over lifetimes for the day the student may return. Okay? Or the teacher should have that sensitivity to know it's broken, the thread is broken, and it's over,
all right.
and let it go. And this is like also the teacher's trust. Give it to God. It's nothing to do with me. God, they're in your hands. I did what I could do, and that's it. And let it go. Teacher is not to try to keep student. Teacher is not to try to push student away. I always use the example of the open hand. Student comes, you hold. Student goes, they go. Yeah. But the 2 and 8 is a very interesting on many levels now. Many things can happen here. We say one of the rules of the teacher, unto infinity, right? Deliver the student unto the infinity. Some teachers misunderstand it. You're my student forever, unto infinity. Not at all. You're my student. My job is to bring you to that place where your own link with the infinite. Think of the number 8, okay? Your
Yeah.
connection within you and into the cosmic infinity, and the 5 is in the middle of that. That's the marriage. That bond is enough connected, and when we come to the 1 and 9, it means stabilized as well. So teacher tests the stability of the student as well. Is it established? Is it converged? And this is linked to contraction, right? Contract and contraction are kind of related. And when it's done, it's done. Yeah, and teacher needs to recognize that, and student needs to recognize that. Satnam, God bless you, Vaheguru. End of discussion. Doesn't mean teacher walks away. I mean student who has become teacher, because that means they're also on their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 journey. Yeah, when we say when we're teaching the yoga classes, don't just see student in front of you, see
Right.
teacher tomorrow,
Right.
potential teacher is there. So some of them do start that journey. Some of them only get to the number 3. They've got a instructor certificate. How much are they really embodying teacher is another thing. Some of them are in the fantasy of becoming the spiritual teacher, and some maybe really do so. And teacher is, whoever was the spiritual teacher is really just a witness to that. And now it may be that there's still a dynamic, there's an interplay, there's a understanding between student and teacher to continue the relationship and the connection. In other cases, not. Teachers building their own domain, and whoever had been spiritual teacher has nothing to do with them. This depends on other factors, which may come up in a moment. But let's, if we may, stay in the 2 and 8 domain here. And there's a lot more can be said in the 3 and 7, but it's like we'd have to go for days and weeks talking about all the games that have to be played there in that domain. 2 and 8. So cleansing and healing, a lot of processing going on. Mirroring. Now this is where the tricky part comes, because the mirroring is also organic. Okay, physical body, teacher's physical body is also in some way mirroring what's going on in the student. Okay, which also means the student may also feel something what's going on for the teacher. So there's this, remember number 8 is linked to sympathy, antipathy, and empathy. Okay, so a very strong empathetic resonance can be building up. And this is where power, money, sex starts to creep in as well.
And attachment. The attachment is...
Exactly, things like attachment, okay? And we talk about detachment, which is the cutting, attachment, the excess holding on, and the non-attachment place, again in the middle of the twist of the 8, the 4, 5, and 6, remaining in that neutrality. So it doesn't mean you're neutral, not feeling. You're feeling everything. Okay, teacher feels what's happening for the student. Doesn't necessarily manifest kind of expressive reactions to all of that, but feels it. Okay, teacher can use that to say, like a reality check to the student, hold on a second, there's something going on. What's happening right now? What are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? Oh, yes, actually, so student was not aware. Because we're tapping into the subconscious domain here with the 2 and 8. Student was not aware, but teacher was aware. Now that can give a lot of room for manipulation of the teacher. The power, money, and sex thing comes in. It can also, however, just give the mirroring. It can just serve the teacher to bring the student to awareness of subconscious processes going on. So it's delicate. All the more reason for a very high standard of ethics. We were in a conversation with a group recently, and we said something like, the more clarity and depth of awareness and knowledge that a teacher has, the less they do. The more they have the capacity for things like magical powers or playing with energies, whatever, all the more restraint teacher has to have to not do that. And that's very difficult because the teacher is also like an experience is going on for the teacher. So is the teacher's nervous system also stable enough and strong enough for them not to start to engage in the interchange with the student, but to process what's going on within their own. I talk about like 2 figure eights going on, what's happening in the pranic nadis of the student and what's happening in the pranic body and the nadis of the teacher. And this is the mirroring is happening. And then in the 5, in the middle of that 8, the exchange of the conversation between student and teacher. And we do say something has to change in the exchange. Yeah. So what is changing for the student? And what is the teacher doing with that? So my experience, as I said, this is a journey for the teacher as much as for the student, is feel that shakiness of my nervous system and realize, oh, I still need to build in me the stability in my nervous system, not to become numbed to what's going on, but to be stable and calm with what's going on. Storm may be happening, but I'm stable and calm. Yeah, so that I can interact with the highest level of integrity and honesty and openness with the student, which then might mean very open conversations also linked into things like power, money, and sex, or any other, and we're talking about energy, yeah? Money is energy, power is energy, sex is energy, any other kind of energetics that's going on. The 4 and 6 is always there for the teacher, so bringing it to consciousness for themselves in their own internal conversation and bringing the student to consciousness in a way that is of service to that student. And when we talk about power, we say teacher has the power to empower not the power over
Right.
the student, but power to empower.
Which I guess, in a way, I'm trying to think, for example, of a specific case, no, a student who's struggling with maybe addiction, some issues, personal issues in their life. And addiction is an extreme form of attachment, in this case to drugs, and then find the teachings and find the teacher, which they feel, like you were saying, in their truth, in their heart, this is the closest, this is my spiritual teacher, and naturally they develop an attachment to that teacher, on the way to an attachment to the teachings, and to be able to self-sustain themselves on that link direction to the infinite, like you were saying. But on the way there's going to be some attachment to the teacher. And I guess that's quite natural in a way that it can happen.
Okay, well, exactly. Natural it is, but then needs a high level of very conscious management of that. It's like we said, student comes and invests trust in the teacher. Teacher has to redirect that trust back to the student. Yeah, and that's why I often use the expression left hand on your heart, right hand for the world. Always pay attention. What's going on here? This is your truth barometer, your truth compass. Always pay attention there. Keep tuning in. Keep listening deeply to that. So there's clearing of the fantasies, clearing of the projections, which is where the disappointment comes in as well. There. But being able to go there is a skill. So I'm thinking of a recent case of student, and recognizing that they're getting drained in their life and what they do, how they're living their work, their whatever else they do, and they're not tapping in to their creative second chakra energy. Okay, and so I tend to be quite explicit. I ask people, can I be very frank and open here? We're going to talk on every level. And then I'll also be explicit in that sense of this figure eight energy. You have yours, you have mine. So this is not about you and me. This is about you with you. Yeah, and you're not flowing through all your dynamic of all your higher, lower, I might use different language in the case. And your animal energy, your creative energy, your sexual energy, your second chakra energy. You're not tapping into that. Yeah. Maybe you have a history, maybe I already know because there's been disclosure, or maybe I don't know, maybe I can sense it. I will not assume anything. I say maybe there's a history behind why you have that protection around that energy, but it means you're not tapping into it for yourself. And if the moment is chosen well, the individual student can start to kind of acknowledge that. It's true because, okay, story. That's one thing. The question now is, could you start to open up to that space? Can you tune in? Can you listen? And can you feel? And can you breathe into there? And what's happening for you when you do that? I feel more vital. I feel more alive. Okay. Now, I already know what's happening because my resonance in me, my nadis and chakras are already revealing to me what's happening. Okay. So even the student is moving into that space. I can even give a little affirmation. I can say, keep going what you're doing. It's working. You're getting more clear. You're getting more connected. Continue that work. Okay? They don't have to know how and why I'm knowing that. Yeah? I can just, if they would ask, I'm just say, oh, it's just little things in your body language. Okay? And, but it is delicate work, and because then the student might feel feelings in any chakra, second, third, fourth, whatever, and then assume, oh, this is about a feeling between me and the teacher.
It's as if they have been repressing something for a number of years, and you are guiding them and they have their eyes closed, or even in a meditation in class, suddenly that chakra opens, they open their eyes and they see you in front of them, right?
Exactly.
So easy, so quickly.
Okay, so here is where the connection towards the one comes in. This is you with you about you. Mm-hmm. Nothing to do with me or me and you. Mm-hmm. And that focus to the one. Right. Because our contract is that I bring you to your one and your own relationship and your own integrity of the one and nine.
And keeping the hand in the heart, that I've seen you often asking your clients,
left hand, always I say left hand is for you, right hand is for the world. And if you see these images of various deities in different traditions or saints and so on, you'll often see them with the left hand in some kind of mudra in the central column. Maybe it's a Gyan mudra, maybe it's the cup in the lap, some gesture here, or pointing like the Christ mudra, to pointing to the heart chakra, and the left hand, the right hand is some gesture to the world. You just did the opposite there. Can I check that?
The image is mirrored here in the screen, but this is my left, this is my right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Use that.
It's kind of funny, but
okay.
Yeah.
No, I just wonder if that would confuse the student who.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, we should make it clear. This is my left hand. So left hand on the heart, and the right one is the one giving the blessings. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot
we reach the one.
Eliminate to illuminate. A lot of cleaning out. At the same time, we think of GOD, generate, organize, destroy. As much as you want to detox, destroy the old stories, there also has to be the generation. Where's the rejuvenation and the empowerment coming in? And then the O in the middle of that is like how things are being redistributed. New perspective, new alignment coming in. You had a question or comment here?
No, I think it's great. We are getting to the 1 hour point, which is what we had set up for today. I think it's we are getting to the one, so it seems quite close to completing. I don't know if there is any last thought that you want to complement.
So what happens here? 1 and 9. I think this is interesting, where the topic of quality versus quantity. Like how many students do I have, or what is the quality? What is the caliber? What is crystallizing this, making this rough coal into the diamond, gathering the elements, the fragments of the spirit and bringing it to the one and bringing it to this point. And then, as we mentioned earlier, not missing the appointment. The left hand on the heart is meaning you have an appointment with yourself. So how's that happening for that individual? Teacher is not guru. I think this comes in at this point to be also clear, because of these projections are being cleaned out. And then the student is either just disappointed, goes back to the Shaktipad 3 or 7, reacts, creates their own trip or whatever, or the student realizes, oh, what is the teachings? Because teacher has brought me to the teachings. And now I'm confronted to my own alignment, which was always going on slowly, but now becomes very, very clear. And this is about reference. I bring you to the altar. I bring the student to the reference. I bring the student to their own alignment. Stand under and understand. Don't stand under me. Stand under the reference and understand the reference. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 is apply that reference in action in your own life. You were never really my student. You're always a student of your own higher consciousness. And the reference in the teachings is an echo and a voice of your own higher consciousness. So you come into that alignment. It's at this point also what happens for a lot of students is there's a kind of lonely passage, the journey through the two, because you're not so out in the game of family, friends anymore. It doesn't mean you've cut off or something, but you're not feeling so connected or associated to all of the world around you. And you're on your way to your own singularity. And a lot of people struggle with this. They will literally say it seems like a very lonely road. And I totally respect people who say it's too much, I can't deal with it, and they want to keep playing the social games so they don't feel lonely. But some are ready to take that further step, and I say, well, your singularity is your solidarity, your solitude, which will then give you solidarity with the one in everyone. But you have to come to your one first. You come to your one to know the one in everyone. It's one thing to say, see God in all. It's another thing to really know the God in yourself, to know the God in all. And this is the challenge, really. And this is the contract is complete when that is stabilized. And the contract involves this contraction of yourself into this small point. One is the virtue of number one is humility, and the teacher Here's a more difficult thing really for the teacher, how to best test your humility in a way. And that's the most difficult thing to do actually. And if teachers themselves don't have that humility, so this is also a teacher's test. You have been projecting on teacher 6, 7, 8, 9. Teacher has played that for you, that presence, that witnessing of the 7, that pranic empowerment of the 8, and then comes a 9, and now you want to say teacher as master. Well, the only question here is, did teacher master themselves? Not be your master, but master themselves. And at that point, hand over to the master. You are in the hands of the master, not me, master. But so that's where golden chain comes in. That's where the reference comes in. How aligned you are to the reference. In my own work, if I think of Karma Kriya and the training, this is a topic I want to be exploring now really with all the people that I've trained. I'm looking to see, are there, I don't know, dozens or hundreds of students, it doesn't matter. Is there a small handful of students with enough alignment, not too much, but I think the positive mind is this, or I think number 7 should be this or that. My feeling, my experience, actually what is the number in itself? What is its own integrity? A small handful of students who are enough aligned that under no circumstances they will compromise the integrity of the references that we have in Karma Kriya, that I want to work with them, that they become a team that will run a training with me. And that's interesting that we're having this conversation because it very much reflects also my journey to 9 numbers, the references, the 9 treasures, the 9 virtues. Where are the students who are standing under that? Yeah, and stable enough that I don't have to keep checking in on them. They don't need to come and get a reality check with me anymore. That I can really say they're ready to carry that.
It's ensuring the continuity of these teachings.
Exactly. There comes 1, 2, 3, 4, where student can now be, and the student is then going to get challenged because then there's a new student who's going to come along and project on that student. Oh, you're my spiritual teacher. Oh, and then comes all the journey we've been describing for the teacher as well as for the student. Yeah.
Well, Shiv Charan, it's been a pleasure to have you here, an honor to have this discussion. And I hope that all our viewers are enjoying this dialogue and finding a little bit more clarity with the numbers in the path of the teacher from the 5 to the 1 and to the 9. And to me, I am passionate about these teachings. I love the numbers. I find them magical and it's very, very revealing. So that's why I love to, I'm very happy that you came here and we share it together. Thank you very much, Shiv. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And until next time, Satnam.
Satnam, bless you and bless everyone who's watching. Satnam.